Welcome everyone to Redesigning School Counseling webinar for first year schools. The focus of this webinar is to prep for Advisory Council Meeting 6, which is to look at your school counseling activities. So today's agenda, as we always do, we'll do a very quick review. Then we'll look at this month's activities, which is activities. And we'll walk through the online system, do a quick walkthrough of the meeting, and then talk about the rubric. Okay, so first of all, the review. I'm just going to fly through this. You've heard it a gazillion times, but just to remind everyone that this is all about helping students make sound choices in areas that impact academic success. This is what we call the impact pyramid. And we believe that when there's sound school counseling programs in place, kids make better choices and then achievement goes up. And so this year, as you've been designing your school counseling program, we start with achievement. Then we went to what choices do kids need to make in order to achieve at that level. And then finally today, we're going to say, okay, what guidance and counseling activities do we need to put in place to help kids make those targeted choices? So the process that you've been through this year, you started out by just getting organized. You met with your council and helped them understand what RSC was all about, and then created a vision statement with their input. Then we went to program goals. So you looked at the student choices that you want kids to make. Those are your goals. At the next month in December and January, you talked about, okay, how can we get the most time and energy possible? And then you came up with priority goals. So your school probably has 1, 2, maybe 3 priority goals. Those are the main areas that you want to work on. And I want to just add in here that we still have non-priority goals. So those 3 things are not your total program. There's also the 50 other non-priority goals that we want to make sure that you're addressing as much as possible with your program. But our main focus in designing your program for next year has been those priority goals. So to further analyze those priority goals, you looked at root causes. Those were things that would explain why kids aren't making the choices that you want them to make. So it could be that the kids didn't have information they needed, they didn't have opportunities, they had personal or social things getting in the way. So we were looking last month at explaining why kids weren't making those choices. And now this month we're finally getting to activities. What can we do to help kids make the choices that we want them to make? So now that we know why kids aren't making those choices, we can design the proper high-impact activities that would help kids make the best choices. Okay, then this is the last meeting of your advisory council. A lot of schools will like to have little celebrations with their advisory council, or come with thank you cards or whatever for the all the evenings or days that the members have spent with you helping you design the program. And then next month, the final step is to prepare to implement the activities that you've selected. So you'll be writing next month. We'll go over like how to write a guidance lesson, how to get a program calendar out of the online system, how to enter an annual budget into the online system. So we'll talk about all that prep stuff next month. Okay, so you have 5 of the 6 products that make up your school counseling portfolio finished. So there's the vision statement, your goals, your resource expansion plan, your priority goals, and your root causes. So that's finished. And now today we're looking at dropping in the last product, which is what activities are you going to do. So let's pause real quickly. Let's see if we have any questions. I am not seeing any hands up. Okay, so let's move forward. So this month we're prepping for the last advisory council meeting, and it's the meeting where you're going to talk about, okay, what are we going to do? One thing that's kind of interesting is that while your focus is going to be on what can we do within the school to help kids make these choices, in many schools the council members will also say things, well, like my business could do this to help kids make that choice. or the mayor's office could do this, or the PTA could do that. So you might find, you may not find, but you might find that in addition to your school-based guidance and counseling activities, that there may be community groups that start to say, oh, we could implement activities too. So that would be ideal because they can reinforce then all the messages that you're giving kids. Okay, so before conducting this meeting, there's some prep that we need to do. The first one is to send out a memo to the council members, and let's just look at these one at a time. So the council memo that goes out will look like this, and basically what we're saying to your council members is our next meeting is coming up, and here's the date, time, and location. And then we're reminding them of the work that you've already done. So we've said at this point we have goals, priority goals, and root causes. So here's our priority goals, and then here's the root causes, what kids lack that is impacting this priority goal. So you've dropped this information into the memo, and then the next section of the memo introduces the next topic, which is to come up with activities that would help kids make these priority choices, address these priority goals. And so then we go into the pre-meeting tasks. So the first step that we want the council to do before they come to your meeting is to think about activities that you might do to increase the percentage of kids who are making these priority choices. And then we're reminding them about what these types of activities are. So they could be thinking about guidance activities, counseling activities, or advocacy activities. Then in the second step, we're saying in order to help you think about these possible activities, we're going to give you some resources that will help you see what other schools are doing around those activities. So let's just open these up. And basically, the first resource are guidance lesson plans that schools that have participated in RSC have entered into the system. So we made that into a searchable database. And the second one is a list of community activities that community organizations are doing to help kids make the targeted choices. So let's look at those real quickly. Go online here. So when they open that first link, they're going to come to this lesson plan search tool. So let's say that one of your student choices, your priority goals, was that you wanted students to choose to take a career interest inventory. So you could just type in a couple keywords from the priority goal. So let's just do career interest, and then you can hit search. Or if they wanted to narrow it down, if they wanted to say, you know, we want to see a career interest in activities with 6th graders or with 9th graders or whatever, they could further narrow it down, the search, by answering the rest of these questions. So, but I'm going to keep it pretty broad. I'm just going to search for career interests. So I hit search, and in here we've got 6 schools that have developed lesson plans. One of the things you can do to kind of see the strength of each of these guidance lessons is to see if any schools have imported the guidance lesson. So as I'm scrolling down, I can see, oh, here's one that I happen to write that has been imported by 17 other schools. And I have a feeling that the reason this one was imported so much is because I included a lot of resources so to save counselors' time. But you'll see there's been a lot of schools that have had their, yeah, here's another one from Mississauga High School that's been imported by 6 schools. So yeah, so that's just kind of a way for you to find some other, a quick way to find guidance lessons that others have thought were valuable. So if you find one that you like, you can just click Import to My School's lesson plans, then that will just take that activity and drop it into your school counseling program with a reference to the school that originally created it. So you can view the whole lesson plan. You can print out a report of the lesson plan. So you have that resource, and your council members have that resource that they can search for activity ideas before they get to your meeting. Then the other resource is from the College Success Coalition, and when they log in, they'll come to this page, and let's just type in the same thing. See who in the community is doing things around career interest. And I can, narrow it down by, just for middle school students or college students. I'm going to just leave all this blank. I also, for school counselors, you know that 21st Century Scholars now need to participate in the Scholar Success Program activities to qualify for their 21st Century Scholars Award. And you can also say that you want to see Scholar Success activities that have been implemented in different communities. Okay, and then I'm going to just search, and I don't know what we're going to come up with, but there are 112 community-based activities around career interests. So some of them will be implemented by schools. Others, here's the Purdue Extension Homemakers Club in Putnam County that's doing some career interest stuff. So it might be interesting too for you to just look to see if any if any community organizations are doing guidance activities in your county that you might be able to tap into. So okay, so you've got those two resources for your council members to kind of play around with before they come. And then step 3 is you're just asking them to please bring activity ideas to your next meeting. Okay, so that is the memo. Let's see if we've got any questions up. And I'm not seeing any. So I've noticed I have a new computer, and when I come out of PowerPoint, it doesn't take me back in with the slide that I left off on, so sorry about that. Okay, so that was sending the memo to the council members. Then we want to enter your current activities, and let me show you how to do that. This is again before you are meeting with the council. So I'm on the process page. I'm going to scroll down to activities. There it is. And I'm going to, I've watched, or actually you're participating in this webinar. I've sent the memo to the advisory council members. Now I'm going to enter the current program activities, even ones that you may get rid of later. We just want to know where are you currently. So I'm going to hit enter. And this you've used before when you put in the non-program activities, so you should have some things in here. And just a reminder that when you click the enter button, you're going to go to a page that looks like this. So you put in the title, description, and then this time, let's say I'm going to type in that it's an academic guidance activity. Now I'm able to select the program goals that this would address. So this may be an academic guidance activity that's going to help kids have an up-to-date four-year high school course plan. So these are my own program goals, so every school has different ones here. It depends on what you typed in as your goals in the goal step. In the indicators, this lists all indicators that align with the ASCA national standards that were written a couple of years ago, and these indicators also align with the Indiana student standards for guidance. So in Indiana, your schools that earn the Gold Star Award are required to address all of these indicators. So at least one of your activities has to address all of the different indicators, and there's quite a few here. But just as a reminder, you can do one activity that maybe will address 5 or 6 of these indicators. So we tried to separate those indicators into very specific little chunks of knowledge that kids needed to know, or skills that they needed to be able to do. So you might have one activity that's going to address 7 or 8 of these things. So I always like to say that, because I know when you look at this long list, it's like, oh my gosh, what, how can I do all this? But it's very doable. For schools outside of Indiana, you do not have to do all of these for the ASCA Ramp Award. In schools outside of Indiana, those schools would address the indicators that make sense based on their data review. But in Indiana, it's been determined that all of these indicators are important for all kids. So to get the gold star, you've got to address all the indicators. Okay, so I'm going to check the indicators, the program goals, the indicators, the grade level that we're going to do this with, and then I really want to draw your attention to this section. At least one of your activities needs to target a student group that's experiencing an achievement gap or a guidance gap. So let's say that you're looking at providing some academic guidance where you're bringing community members in to talk about the importance of school. And you look at your academic data and you discover that there's an achievement gap between your boys and your girls. If that's the case, the mentors that you're bringing in, you may want to make sure that they're all males, so that that is going to reach your male population maybe in a more powerful way. So in other words, you can take an activity that you're doing for all students, but just design it in a way that would capture or engage the targeted student group at a different rate, and really just more. So, so you could do that. The other thing you could do is design a specific activity that is only attended by a specific student group. For example, maybe you're doing an activity on STEM careers, and you're trying to introduce your female students to that. So you may put on, like one school that we've worked with, put on a luncheon for girls and invited all kinds of STEM professionals to come in, all women, to sit down with those girls and talk about STEM careers. So that was an activity that was specifically focused on girls, and so you could do it that way too. So, but at least one of your activities for both RAMP and Gold Star, Indiana Gold Star, needs to focus on closing achievement gap. And the way we know that, which activities are targeted for that, is because you've checked one of these groups. And then finally, we need to know which months this activity is going to happen in. If it happens all year long, just check them all. The computer will build a calendar for you based on the months that you've got checked here. And then who's going to be responsible for making sure that this activity happens? And when you click, there's the members of your steering team are listed here. And then you could also include someone that's not listed here, and if so, then if you click that, then you'll type their name in. So after you enter your activities and save, and again, this is a pre-meeting activity, pre-discussion activity, because we need to get some reports out that are based on your current work prior to having the discussion with your council. This, of course, this would take you some time because as a school counselor, you probably do 70 or 80 activities through the year, so it's going to take some time to get everything in here. But the reports that you're able to print out, I think you'll be very pleased with. It's going to show everyone exactly how much you do for kids. So, okay, so let's see if I can go back to, yep, good, I did. Okay, then the next pre-activity step is to print the 2 different crosswalks that you're going to use in your meeting, the goals crosswalk and the activities crosswalk. And then we would like you, prior to coming to the meeting, to explore what other schools are doing to address some of your priority goals. So let's get online and I'll show you how to do this. So we're going to print the goals crosswalk and the activities crosswalk. So I'm going to go back to the process page, and Okay. So I've done step 3, entered the current program activities, and now I'm at step 4, which is the program goals crosswalk. And if I click the program goals crosswalk, notice there is no enter. We're pulling this from different things that you've already put in. And I'm going to open up the report. And here's what I've got. So what this report does is it's showing my priority goals, and then it has married the activities to those goals. So the way I have for demo school, the way I have the activities in right now, I can see that already I'm doing one activity, a four-year high school course plan workshop, that's addressing this priority goal. We want all kids to choose to have an up-to-date four-year course plan. So, but as I scroll down, I see here's a goal, you know, wanting kids to make the choice to take an AP course in high school. I don't have any activities associated with that. So this is a red flag. It's okay to have this right now. That's why we're doing redesigning school counseling. That's why you're meeting with your advisory council to kind of figure out what to do about this. So I have two choices when you see this. I can either say, you know, I really don't want to put any activities in, and if that's the case, then you got to get rid of the goal, because you're not going to reach this goal if you're not doing any activities. So if you decide, I don't want to do any activities, I just am, you know, so overwhelmed right now, no way, and just go back to the goals section and remove the goal. The other thing that you'll be able to discuss with your advisory council is, you know, we have this goal, we're not doing anything right now to reach this goal. What could we be doing? So part of the discussion is going to be this report is a catalyst for the discussion. So you'll look for, okay, there's no activities here, what could we be doing? You also will look at this where you do have activities, and you'll be asking the question, is this enough? If we just do this, are we going to reach this goal? So, okay, so here are the priority goals. So in the first half of your meeting, you're going to be looking at these priority goals and really teasing out what are the activities we need to put in place in order to reach this goal. Then part 2 of the meeting is to say, okay, we've been focusing on these priority goals, but let's go down just for fun and let's look at these non-priority goals. And chances are, since they are non-priority goals, there may be several goals that don't have any activities to address them. And again, I would recommend keeping those goals in there and just you know, acknowledging that given the time and the energy that the counselors have right now, you're not addressing those goals, and so it's not realistic to think that kids are going to do these things because nobody's teaching them how to do it or helping them do them. What tends to happen here too is that once people start to see, oh, no activities, no activities, no activities, this tends to be another place where teachers will step forward and say, we can help you with that. You know, I can put that in our health course curriculum, or I could include that in my family and consumer science curriculum. We've had, you know, one school that we talked to in Pennsylvania earlier today. They're looking at hiring another staff member now after looking at this kind of report. So, so the other thing that will happen in your meeting is if there are some of these that you're not going to put a major emphasis on, but you do want to address them a little bit, before coming to the meeting you will have put a star in front of those. So while we're going to focus on the priority goals primarily, we're also going to look at these non-priority goals real quickly and say, okay, are there any of these that we just want to give a little bit of attention to this year? Okay, so that is part 2 of your meeting, is to look at those non-priority goals. And then part 3 of the meeting is to look at a different report. And that is the activity crosswalk report. So this report is same information, it's just organized a little differently. So in this activity, we're saying, okay, here are our activities. In this report, we're saying here are our activities, and what goals do they support? So we've got this activity called an AP dual credit luncheon recruitment luncheon, and it's not associated with any goal. So that begs the question, why are we doing the activity? You may find, and most schools will find, that there's a handful or one or two activities that they're doing just because they've always done them. They're not really aligned with their goals. It's just historically, the counselors have always done that. So if you find a situation like this, then you'll want to ask your advisory council, should we get rid of this luncheon? And if it's not associated with the goal, if you don't have any AP goals, then the answer would be yes. Or people might say, no, we need to have that luncheon because we really do want kids to sign up for AP. We need to put that in as a goal. So if that's the case, then you'd go back and clean that up, put AP enrollment in as a non-priority goal or a priority goal, just depending on how strongly the council feels. But again, anytime you have an activity that's not aligned with a goal, that begs the question, should we get rid of that activity, or is there a goal really there that we just haven't identified yet that is there, but we haven't put it in words yet? So, okay. So that's the third part of the meeting, is just to look at your activities, any activities that aren't aligning with a goal, and just figure out what's going on with that. Okay. So, oops, too far. So that brings us up then to the point where we can conduct the meeting. So we're on step 8. Oh, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. We also, here are links where you can just browse those two tools for searching guidance activities and counseling activities. So you can get to that through, either through the memo or through these links right here for you guys. Okay, so then we're conducting the meeting, and let me show you how that will go. So, oops, I'm at the end of the slide. Let me go back to the beginning. Okay, so the beginning of your meeting with your council is just going through the review stuff again. It's kind of getting everybody warmed up, reminding us where we are, and then today we're looking at activities to address the priority goals. And then this is the last meeting, and then next month you're preparing. I think this is a really nice slide to talk with the advisory council. It kind of helps them understand that their input came out as a product that was worth their time to come to your meetings. And then we're overviewing activities. So we're reminding people, because we really haven't talked about activities since the very beginning of the year, we're reminding people that there are 4 types of school counseling activities: guidance activities, counseling, advocacy, and each of those are defined, so you kind of go over those same slides as what we used before. And then non-program activities too, but reminding people that your non-program activities are not going to help kids make those priority choices, the sound choices that we want them to make. Okay, then we're reviewing the activity focus, and this is, I think, an important slide to spend just a little time on. Sometimes what happens here, which is really not good, is that after all this work, people kind of forget that they went through this process, and they just start pulling activities out of the air. And that makes everything, all the planning and the strategic thinking and all the data collection, you just throw that out the window if you're just randomly picking activities out of the air. So we want to remind people that when we talk about activities today, it's to help us. We're picking activities that will help students make those choices. For example, to increase the percentage of free reduced seniors who take an AP or dual credit course. That's a choice we want kids to make. And now, because of the work we did last month, we know why kids aren't making those choices. They're not aware of AP and dual credit. There's too few AP and dual credit courses offered. Students can't afford the dual credit tuition or the AP test fee. So we know the whys now. And so now we want to look at what are the activities we can put in place to address those things, so that kids make the choices we want them to make. So all the work that you do, and you're telling the council, all the work that we do is going to be to look at targeted activities. What activities can we put in place to help kids make the choices that we want them to make? So again, I would suggest that you spend some time on this slide, especially to help them understand that we're not just picking activities randomly out of the air because they're fun to do or the school next door is doing them. We want our activities to be targeted to our priority goals. Okay, so the question today then is, what activities should we implement next year to address each root cause that is interfering with our program goals? So we're going to look at all different kinds of activities, and we'll look at each root cause, we'll look at each program goal one at a time. So the key questions as we look at things are, do we have sufficient activity to impact each priority goal? And if not, should we delete the goal, revise a current activity, or add a new activity? So that's key question 1. Key question 2 is, do we have, let me back up. So this is for the priority goals. Key question 2 is, do we have sufficient activities to impact certain non-priority goals that we just would like to spend a little bit of time on next year? And if not, then do we get rid of the goal, do we add an activity, or do we revise the current activity? And then the key question 3 is, does each of our current activities support at least one program goal, and if not, should we get rid of it? Do we have activities that we don't need? I think some wording that I like to use here is that we want to have targeted activities that are going to address the key choices we want kids to make. The other thing is we want to marry the program goals with the activities. We want every program goal to be supported by activities, and we want each activity to lead to a program goal. So in this step, we're looking at our activities and our program goals married to each other. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We'll start out with the priority goals, and I'm kind of role-playing now. We've given everybody a copy of the priority goals crosswalk. So let's just look at that first goal on that crosswalk report. And you can either take the slide out and just refer to the paper, or you can put the slide up and type in there what the priority goal is and what the root causes are. Okay, so as you're looking at that first priority goal to increase the percentage of students who, and then type in the rest of that properly at the top, we want to look at your activity, the activities that are there. And let's just have a discussion about, are there any activities that we should get rid of? And I'd start with that. Look at them. Are there any activities we should get rid of? So everybody's looking down through the list. My guess is probably not. Or are there any activities that should be revised? Are there some things that, maybe we're offering this dual credit scholarship right now, but it's only for 2 kids, and so we need to revise that and grow that, make it bigger. Are there things that we need to leave out in our current activities or revise? And then the next question for the same priority goal is there anything that we need to add? So they're looking at this piece of paper, so they're looking at this report here. And then we're saying, is there anything we need to add to that list? As you explored different things that different schools were doing before you came, did you see some cool ideas that we should add? So as people are brainstorming and saying, yeah, it'd be cool if we did this or we did that, or if you have activities on your parking lot from last month, you'd want to bring those forward as well. And then you're just jotting down everybody's ideas. You're kind of talking to them about, what grade level would this be at if we did it? What it would be for all students, or would it just be for the boys or the Hispanic students, or who would participate in the activity? Then after you've got all the activities down, then you're going to come back and say, okay, is this an activity that we want to add for next year, or we're going to park mainly because of time, or park to bring back maybe in another year down the road. So we're just making check marks in those last 2 columns. We're going to add them or park them. Okay, so you've done that now for priority goal number 1. Now we need to go back and do the exact same thing for priority goal number 2. So we're looking at, let's look at goal 2 now. Is there any activities we need to omit or revise? And are there any activities that we're going to add? And then we're going back and doing the same thing for priority goal number 3 if you have 3. So I put this kind of hot pink slide in here just to remind you that you need to replicate slides 34 to 37 for each priority goal that you have. You just kind of put those in there so that the priority goal's name can be at the top of the slides. Okay, so after you've done all the priority goals, Then we're going to say, okay, now let's look further down on that crosswalk report. Now let's look at the priority goals. And you'll notice that the counselors, we have put a star in front of some of the non-priority goals that we just want to focus on a little bit next year. So, and you know, you may have starred a couple of them that, you know, are just a little bit important to kind of address in a bigger way than you are now. It's not a priority goal. We don't have a root cause analysis for it, but we just want to kind of beef up this area a little bit. And so we're asking folks, you know, is there anything that we should omit or revise for this non-priority goal? And are there any things you want to add for that non-priority goal? We used to not do this step, and typically what happens here is that the advisory council will say, you know, we're focused on this priority goal stuff, these 3 big ones, but there's these other 2 that are kind of important. We know we haven't done a root cause analysis, but we would like to kind of beef up something in this area as well. This gives you a chance to do that. So you know, we're talking about priority goals that we've done the whole study of, but we're also going to just introduce very quickly, are there any non-priority goals that we need to kind of look at a little bit? Okay, so that's part 2, and then the last part of the meeting is to say, okay, you've got another report, same information, just organized a little differently. This report helps you look at the activities that we're doing, and it aligns the activities with goals. So the activities, for example, the first one, this is an activity called an AP recruitment activity for a federal lunch program. But here's the choice, the goal that we have, that we want kids to take or plan to take a college level course. So all of your activities should have a goal following them. But here's an activity that has a red flag. So this is one we want to discuss with the council. The counselor back to school lunch, you know, it doesn't align with any of our goals. We've always done it. It's kind of a nice thing. It's warm and fuzzy. It makes people feel good, but we can't really identify any goal that's helping our students to master. So should we take that activity out? So people might say, you know, yeah, let's get rid of that. It's a waste of time if it's not going to align with your goals. Or they may say, you know, maybe there is a goal there. Maybe if we were doing a back-to-school lunch and kids feel welcome, then they're going to attend school more regularly. And so maybe the goal of this activity was really to increase attendance. And if so, then you could add a goal and then link the 2. But I think in most cases it's going to be more of a question that you're doing an activity just because it's already been done and it doesn't align with your goals, or it aligned with a goal that you had 3 years ago that's no longer a goal for you. So, okay, so again, we're marrying activities and goals. And then final checks, we're saying, okay, let's all just think about this one last time. Can we do all these activities? As school counselors, do we have the time to do all these activities? So you're looking at, here's your time allotment, and you've dropped in those time percentages based on the input that you had during the resource discussion with your council. You know, that's your time to say, you know, y'all, we only decided to allot 2% of our time to guidance, and we've got about 30 guidance activities listed there. I don't think that's going to work. And then you may want to go back and take some of those guidance activities out. You could also redo the time allotments as long as the total time does not add up to more than 100%. So, but again, this is your last chance as a counselor to say, wait a minute, this is not doable within the time constraints that we have within our capacity level. And then finally, we want to do the same thing with resources. We might say, you know, we'd love to do that lunch, and we do think it's going to help with attendance, but we don't have any funding to put on that luncheon. So realistically, we need to get rid of it because we don't have the resource available to support it. And then we also want to make sure that that the activities that you have meet different requirements. So if there are any state laws or district requirements that involve guidance activities, you could type them in here. Like in Indiana, it's a state law that all 6th through 12th graders have a graduation plan, so that's got to be an activity in your school if you're in Indiana. The Ask a Ramp Award has 2 required activities. One of your activities has to address a specific student group, and that's why I emphasize checking the student group for at least one of your activities. And then also for ASCA, at least one of your activities has to involve group counseling. So if you're working towards the Ask a Ramp Award, you need to drop that in. And then for the Indiana Gold Star Award, again, there's some duplication here. You have to address a specific student group, you have to address group counseling, but then we need to have at least 3 academic guidance activities, at least 3 career guidance activities, and at least 3 personal social guidance activities. And then finally, you have to have activities that collectively address each of the Indiana guidance standards. Okay. So then finally is we're doing the consensus check. Can we live with those activities and support them publicly? So at this point, you've got all of the input. Now we're going to go back to the online system, and we can go in and edit the current, we want to go in and edit the program activities, the ones that are going to be current next year. And then I want to show you 2 different checks that are available. One is to check the student group crosswalk. So if I do that report, I can see that for this school, for demo school, I don't have any activities that are focused specifically on males, females, any ethnic group, but I do have an activity that's focused on my free and reduced lunch students. And then it gives you the name of the activity that's there. This is actually not a really good name. This is not a very descriptive name of the activity. We probably want it to be much more descriptive, so you can close your eyes and have a picture of what that is all about. So, okay, so that's one. This is just a tool for you to check, do I have at least 1 student group targeted in my activities? And then the next one is the guidance standards crosswalk. These indicators are aligned with the Indiana Student Standards for Guidance and the ASCA National Standards. So you can see if this were for real, if this were a real school, this school would not be approved for the Gold Star Award because there are a ton of indicators that don't have an activity that aligns with them. So again, I've only put in a couple of activities for demo school. Once you get into all of your activities, chances are you're going to have all those indicators covered, but if not, you'll get a little flag and then you'll know that you need either an additional activity or you'll need to tweak an activity. Okay, so then we've done those 2 checks. You've got another chance to update your program activities. You could actually do the same thing up here or here in step 3 or step 11. Enter your meeting minutes and then look at the rubric items. So I think I'm about ready to wrap up. We've talked about the meeting prep. We have talked about the post-meeting checks. That's what we just went through, those crosswalks. We've looked at the online system. We've done the meeting walkthrough. So in terms of submissions, you are submitting all of your activities. And when the reviewers look at your activities, each separate activity, they'll check to make sure that each activity is complete and that the description is clear and concise. The reviewers actually love reading this section because they get all kinds of ideas for their school counseling program. In the counseling activities, at least 1 activity involves group counseling. And the description, and we'll know that because the description and the title of the activity will include the words group counseling. And then the description for the group counseling activity names each of the activities that will be included during the group counseling session. I think there's make sure you read the rubric item for this in the online system. Another one is that the counselor who is facilitating the group counseling activity that counselor's name needs to be in the description. That's an ASCA requirement. And then the other one is that the number of students that are participating, that is included in the description as well. So any guidance activities that you're putting in, we need to make sure that at least one guidance activity addresses the needs of a specific group. And then we've already talked about this, that there need to be 3 academic, 3 career, 3 personal social guidance activities, and then each of the guidance indicators has to be addressed. Okay, the minutes, same as always, no changes in the rubric items there. So, and just one thing to remember in doing this is that to really, every step of the way now, let's do capacity checks. So given who you are as a school counselor, your knowledge, your skills, your time, your resources, do the school counselors in your building have the capacity to implement all of these activities? And if not, then you need to make sure that you discuss that with your council, because they will be expecting those activities to be put in place, and they'll be expecting the data that goes with those priority goals to go up. So we need to make sure that this is well designed and that you have the capacity to pull it off. So, okay, just looking ahead, each year from this point on in the summer, you'll do an annual progress report, and you'll meet with your advisory council once each year, and you'll look at your updated data and just see, if your activities are making a difference, if the priority goals are improving. So, okay, that is it. Let me see what questions we have. And not seeing any hands up. Anybody wants to unmute themselves or type in a question? Let me open up the question frame. I'm not seeing anything in there. Okay. One other thing I just want to give you a heads up on, so for your time management. In looking forward, what we're going to be doing next month, and then in May. In April, we'll be looking at developing lesson plans for some of your activities. The calendar takes no time at all because the computer's going to do it. You just need to push a button and it pops out. We will be asking you next month to create a budget or a funding proposal, one or the other. We'll show you how to do that. And then in May, there's all these odds and ends things, but we're giving you a lot of resources. So if you don't have a job description, we'll give you one that you can start with. If you don't have a program brochure, we'll give you a link to a whole bunch of different ones. There will be these May activities to do as well. So we want to make sure that you get this work done now so that we can spend April and May preparing to implement and doing the final work on your portfolio so that you can submit it for Gold Star Ramp. Okay, I don't think I'm seeing any questions. I don't see any hands up. So thank you everybody very much, and we'll talk with everybody next month. Hope the snow melts for you all. I know it's been a hard past few weeks in Indiana with all the snow. So thank you for doing this work on behalf of kids, and we will talk to everyone next month. Thank you so much.